Hey everyone, and welcome to our Volunteer Opportunities webinar. We're really excited to get started and let you guys know how you can get involved with ARDMS. Before we jump in, just a little bit of housekeeping. Mischa Truong is monitoring the chat, so if you have any questions, we'll make sure to address them at the end. Your presenters today are myself, Leah Patterson, Amy Baldwin, Darlene Leuschke, and Liesel Tavenner. To introduce myself, I'm the Volunteer Engagement Coordinator here at ARDMS, and my team just makes sure that everyone, all of our volunteers, have a positive experience with us.
Hi everyone, I'm Amy Baldwin and I am the Exam Program Manager for Adult, Fetal, and Pediatric Echo as well as OBGYN.
Hi everyone, I'm Darlene Leuschke. I'm Exam Program Manager for the Midwife Exam, the MSKS, BT, and the SVTGI group, who are vascular scientists out of the UK. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Liesel. I'm a sonographer. I have volunteered for the ARDMS and now I work for Inteleos. I'm an exam program manager for SPI, abdomen, breast, and pediatric sonography.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mischa and I'm the ARDMS Test Development Manager. I work with this talented team here to facilitate our item and test development work with volunteer subject matter experts across North America. Thanks so much for your time and initial interest in volunteering, and we really appreciate you being here tonight to learn a little more with us.
All right, so what is Inteleos? We've all heard about the ARDMS. Inteleos is the umbrella corporation for ARDMS, APCA, and POCUS. So 3 parts underneath Inteleos. Inteleos is a nonprofit certification organization that delivers assessments and cultivates global community. We're really dedicated to setting high standards in healthcare and patient safety. And our headquarters is in Rockville, Maryland. ARDMS has been around a long time, since 1975, and we are currently very close to 100,000 registrants worldwide, which is pretty amazing. ARDMS offers 10 specialty examinations with 4 credentials, so RDMS, RDCS, RMSK, and RVT. Our mission is to empower sonographers to provide exceptional patient care through rigorous assessment and continual learning. So we know about ARDMS, and we have APCA, which is the physician side, and we have POCUS, which is point of care ultrasound.
So with the ARDMS, there are lots of different opportunities for volunteering. Some are kind of continuous and some are just more of like a one-time thing, but there's 3 general areas that it's broken off into. First, non-exam development. And under non-exam development, there's opportunities such as being on the compliance panel, being an ARDMS ambassador, or being on an ad hoc task force. Sometimes we have task forces that periodically pop up for various reasons. And then exam development. This is the biggest area that we have our volunteers work in because it requires lots of help from subject matter experts such as yourselves. First, there are item writers for all of the specialties to get items out on the exams, and item reviewers to make sure that they're high quality, mentors for item writers, and panelists for standard settings and practice analyses. And then finally, we have governance, which is kind of the overseeing board or body like the ARDMS Council. And there are a few general requirements to become a volunteer with ARDMS. First, you have to be registered in good standing, and you also have to complete the volunteer and confidentiality agreement just to make sure that the confidential sensitive material that you might be helping us out with kind of stays within the volunteer realm. And if you're working for a specific opportunity like exam development, you also need to maintain the credential for the specialty that you are helping out with. So for example, if you want to write items for abdomen, you would need to be credentialed in abdomen. And as you all know, COVID-19 has affected a lot of our daily lives, both personally and in the work environment. So we have transitioned into a remote meeting structure because of COVID-19. And it's been going very well. We've been having all of our meetings remotely. They used to be a mix of being remote and in person, but everyone's been satisfied with the way that we've been running the remote meetings, as well as they've been very productive.
Right, so if non-exam development activities sounded appealing to you, you generally have about 3 options, and those are compliance panel, ambassadorship, or task forces. So first we have our compliance panel, which is a team that investigates suspected violations of ARDMS compliance policies. So if you're chosen, you'll be matched with one of 4 panels. So that's appeal, hearing, review, and reinstatement. Each of these panels basically represents a step in the review process of a violation. So if you're an ARDMS registrant in good standing and you have been for at least 5 years, we definitely encourage you to apply. Our next opportunity is our ambassador program. Ambassadors present about the ARDMS credentials to their community and also can promote the ARDMS credential in an official exhibit booth and encourage registrants to volunteer. So obviously that's a little bit on hold until we can safely do exhibits again. But if you do become an ambassador, you'd work with the volunteer engagement team as well as the marketing team, and we'd make sure you have all the materials and resources that you might need to be successful. And finally, we have ad hoc task forces, which are committees that are assembled to address specific issues or objectives as they come up. So if this micro-volunteering activity sounds interested to you, we encourage you to keep an eye on the My ARDMS website, where you would probably see it advertised as it comes up.
Okay, so moving on to the exam development activities, there are several volunteer opportunities, such as being on an assessment committee, becoming an item writer and or reviewer, a mentor, a panelist, and occasional ad hoc task forces. So by far, the most popular activity is writing items. And this is usually the first step into volunteering for ARDMS. Writing items for specific assessments is very important, as you will be creating test questions that will be ultimately on the examinations. There are specific rules to writing test items, and all new writers are provided with extensive training and are assigned a mentor. Item writing is fun, so I've heard, and rewarding, and generally it requires about 20 to 30 minutes to craft a really good item. And item writers also receive CMEs for accepted items. So content reviewers usually have some experience already as an item writer, and they are proficient in spotting a well-written item, not only for the grammar side of it, but for plausibility for the actual assessment. And generally, content reviewers participate in group activities such as item development and review workshops, developing content outlines, and participate in practice analyses. So as mentioned, mentors assist new writers by making suggestions, or not, regarding the items written by their mentees. There's also a great mentor training program should anyone be interested in receiving that as well. So for each assessment committee, they're comprised of subject matter experts, and it's usually between 5 and 9 members each for each committee. And they're responsible for attending quarterly conference calls and participate in most all of the exam development duties as mentioned. So the time commitment kind of varies on that, depends on what the schedule for that specific assessment is each year. And you might participate in item development and review workshops and other assessment type projects, maybe a standard setting, maybe a practice analysis. And assessment committee members are nominated for 1 year. So the assessment committee leadership is comprised of a chair and a vice chair. They are both considered the assessment committee leadership roles, and they work closely with the EPM, us, and the ECS, which is an exam clinical specialist. An exam clinical specialist is a hired stenographer by Inteleos. And then finally, the chair position, once you're nominated, is a 2-year term. And the vice chair, similar to that of the members, is a 1-year term and may continue on. Other duties for the leadership roles include facilitating the tasks and milestones that oversee the development of the examinations. And the chair also mentors the vice chair as they assume the leadership role. As a chair and vice chair, you are also a member of the ARDMS Council, and you participate in conference calls and discuss and determine strategies, policies, and initiatives for the mission.
So this nifty little pyramid here kind of elaborates more on the governance and council side of ARDMS. So as mentioned previously, the assessment committee usually has between 5 and 10 members, and the chair and vice chair of each committee serve as council members. And the ARDMS Council works closely with the board of directors, and this group has an appointed chair and vice chair. The current chair is Trish Turner. I don't know if you guys know who she is or not, but she used to serve as the OBGYN Assessment Committee chair, and she's very active in the ARDMS community. And finally, at the top of the pyramid, we have our overseeing board of directors for Inteleos. And this is a group of 11 professionals from various specialties and professions. It's not all imaging professionals. It's kind of a mix of some business folks, some sonographers, some doctors, etc. And they just oversee the strategic governance of the organization as a whole and work very closely with both internal staff as well as the ARDMS Council. So, panelists, this picture here, just to give you some background, is a picture from our adult echo standard setting that was held in June. And it was our first big event that we did completely remote. And this type of event typically was done in person in the past, but it was very successful and everyone really enjoyed their time. It was 3 nights long for 3 hours each to complete this standard setting. And some background on standard settings and practice analyses. They're usually held every few years for each credential, just to ensure that the examinations remain reflective of current practice and fair for our entry-level candidates. The practice analyses evaluate the content outline, make changes if needed, and the standard settings evaluate the passing standard for the examinations. And we recruit a diverse panel of credentialed subject matter experts for each event to make sure that it's really fair for the test takers. And we do have quite a few ad hoc exam development activities that are currently going on. These are working groups or task forces that are created to plan and implement strategic changes and new initiatives. And they involve a lot of frequent meetings and collaboration between subject matter experts and staff. Usually these are probably like over a year or so long, maybe a little longer depending on what topic it is. But a few current examples of ones we have in the works are maintenance of certification, media, midwife sonography, and semi-interactive console items. And we also have another opportunity, which is fairly new and pretty exciting. It is the ARDMS Skills App. And this is a pilot that we are just kind of testing the waters and creating some content for to see how it's received and how it goes. But we are currently looking for content creators for VT, OB, AB, AE, compliance, and sonographer ergonomics. And just to basically write items, but it's a little different than exam item writing. It's basically like a Quizlet app for experienced sonographers to remain current on important topics. And the participants collaborate with each other to create and approve items via the web platform that's being used for this app. And each volunteer is asked to draft around 2 items a month on their own schedules. So it's very flexible and it's kind of exciting because it's a new initiative. But I will say that it is different than item writing, and you can't participate in item writing for the exam as well as writing for the skills app.
Thank you, Amy. So we want you guys to know that we're always looking for new volunteers in a variety of areas, but there's a few categories that we have a more immediate need that we're actively recruiting for right now, and that's item writers for all of our echo exams, AE, VT, BR, and MSKS, as well as our skills app contributors and compliance panel members. So if any of these seem interesting to you, we definitely encourage you to explore sooner rather than later.
And the other opportunities that we had mentioned during this slide aren't currently really needed, but they may be in the future. So just wanted to let everybody know of the opportunities that we generally have available.
And so that nearly concludes our Volunteer Opportunities webinar. So we ask that you keep an eye on your email for a post-webinar survey so you can express interest in whatever you'd like to volunteer for. We're especially interested in knowing if you'd like to do any item writing, as we have an item writing workshop coming up, or an item writing webinar, excuse me, in the works coming up that we'd love to invite you to. You can also visit ardms.org/volunteer-now to learn more and also learn how to get started right away. And if you ever have any questions about volunteering with us or how to get started, anything like that, you can email volunteer@inteleos.org and a member of my team, Volunteer Engagement, will get back to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Leah. And do we have any questions in the chat, Mischa?
Give me a moment. Let's see what's coming in. So one question is, do we receive CMEs for volunteering? You can receive CME waivers. So we basically would reduce your total CME requirement. I think you have every 3 years. For certain like ad hoc panels, like practice analysis, standard setting, it's 3 or 4 hours. I'll let Leah clarify. I know she has the chart. But for item writing in particular, we do compensate you. There is a cap per year, but that's the one way we do compensate you, CME waivers.
So specifically for the panels, it's either 4 or 5, depending on whether it's practice analysis, standard setting, or workshop. And then for item writing, for every 3 items you write, you'll receive 1 CME waiver, and that's capped off at 5 CME waivers per volunteer per year. So it can't exceed that number.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? We'll give everyone a minute if they want to type something into the chat. If you have anything top of mind.
One question that came in here asks, how many items are expected of me in my first writing project? That's a good question. Generally, we try to focus on quality, not quantity. So whether you have a few hours to give or many hours, generally our projects are open all year. So it's really dependent on the time you have available. As Darlene mentioned, we estimate about 30 minutes to write a full item with a good rationale and references provided. So it's really up to you. We appreciate any time and expertise that you can share with us, because all our exams are created with items that are created by volunteer practitioners and educators out in the field. So, it's coming from folks like you. So we do appreciate it.
For sure.
Let's see. One other question I see here is time commitment. So we've talked a little bit about an item writer. It's up to you, as you're able to give. If you're a committee member, which is a 1-year appointment, that's probably going to be in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 hours a year. It depends if your exam is windowed or on demand, but generally every year you're going to have a form review, which is a pretty, I don't want to say laborious, but it's a thorough review of the items that we're drafting for the next form to go live to the candidate. So it's really our big QC checkpoint to get external validation. And then again, as one of my colleagues mentioned, we have quarterly assessment committee calls to kind of keep you engaged in what's going on with the organization. And if you're committee leadership, so if you're a chair or vice chair, I'd say in the neighborhood of 20 plus hours a year. We're in constant contact with you kind of via monthly calls and as needed via email, but it's really a partnership and true collaboration between staff and volunteers. So we try to be flexible.
And I see a question here from Gloria. So sonography instructors, we have found that instructors are really good item writers as well as mentors to help the newer item writers kind of learn the ropes and figure out how to be successful. But really any of our volunteer opportunities, we have practitioners, instructors, people from kind of all across the board in different practice areas volunteer for us. So I would say probably item writing to get started would be a great pathway, but there are a few as well that you could consider. Any other questions for us tonight?
Do you get a standard on how the questions need to be formulated for item writing? If I'm interpreting your question correctly, we have what I would say consider pretty thorough guidelines on the item types that we deliver in the tests and how to help create those. I think a lot of the good work comes with collaborating with your mentor, because the mentors are seasoned item writers. They know what we're looking for. We really try to encourage item writers who are active and interact with their mentors often. We try to bring those folks to item review sessions where you're able to see how items are evaluated by another group of people. And I think that really helps with the writing process. So the short answer is yes, we do our best to help you understand on, what the standards are. Quote unquote,
I can
guidelines.
add to that a little bit. Yes, we do have, specific type formats that we like to use, like ending with a question mark. We also ask the writers to create hotspot items, which is basically an image, and you're asked to identify a specific area or a pathology within the image. But yes, we do have a very thorough item writing training, whereas you'd have to write the STEM, which is the actual question, 3 distractors, which are the wrong answers, a key, and then we ask that you reference it in the event that we're ever challenged on it, as well as mapping it to the content outline.
Thank you. And we do have an upcoming webinar in the next couple of months that's more specific to item writing training. If you're interested in that, just be sure to indicate that in the survey that we're going to send out, and we'll get you set up for that so you can learn more. Anything else before we sign off for the night? Any other questions?
I'm not seeing anything else come in at the moment.
Okay.
These were good questions. Very good.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we appreciate everyone joining. Once again, we're excited to help you get involved. So feel free to reach out with any questions or anything, but also be on the lookout for that survey that we're going to send out tomorrow, just to get your feedback on this webinar. And I hope everyone has a wonderful evening, and thanks again for your time tonight.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Stay safe.
Thank you,
stay
everyone.
healthy.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Look forward to hearing from you.